He froze at the doorway, his heart slamming against his ribs as the scent of lemon cleaner drifted through the air. The sound of running water echoed from the kitchen sink, and for a split second he thought he had walked into the wrong house. But then he saw her, his CEO, the most powerful woman in the company, standing in his tiny kitchen, sleeves rolled up, yellow gloves on her hands, quietly scrubbing his dishes as if she belonged there. And in that moment, everything he thought he understood about pride, dignity, and kindness began to unravel. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen behind closed doors, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that truly need them. Daniel Harper had never imagined his life would shrink into something so fragile. At 34, he was a widower, a father to a 4-year-old girl named Lily, and a junior financial analyst in one of the largest tech firms in the city. His days began before sunrise and ended long after dark. He would wake Lily gently, braid her soft brown hair with clumsy fingers, pack her small pink backpack, and whisper apologies to her as he rushed her to daycare before sprinting toward the train station. He was always late, always tired, always one step behind. Since his wife's passing 2 years earlier, grief had not left him, it had simply changed shape. It lived in the unwashed dishes piling up in the sink. It hid in the laundry he never had time to fold. It lingered in the unopened bills stacked neatly on the counter. Daniel tried to keep everything together, but exhaustion seeped into his bones. He skipped meals so Lily could have fresh fruit. He took freelance work at night, eyes burning as spreadsheets blurred on his screen. He never complained. He couldn't afford to. At work, Daniel kept his head down. The company's CEO, Victoria Hale, was known for her precision and high standards. She was elegant, composed, and intimidating in a quiet way. She rarely smiled, and when she did, it was usually during board meetings after a successful quarter. Daniel had only spoken to her twice, once during a presentation where he stumbled over his words, and once in an elevator where silence felt heavier than steel. So when he pushed open his front door that evening, Lily asleep in his arms and her teddy bear dangling from her tiny fingers, the last person he expected to see in his modest kitchen was Victoria Hale. She stood by the sink in a simple blue dress, her blonde hair tied back loosely. The expensive heels he had seen her wear at corporate events were gone. Instead, she wore plain flats, and bright yellow cleaning gloves covered her hands. The counter had been wiped clean. The trash bags were tied and ready to go. The living room toys were stacked neatly in a corner. The chaos he had left that morning was quietly disappearing. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Embarrassment flooded him first. He saw his life through her eyes, the cramped apartment, the stained carpet, the exhaustion etched into every surface. He felt exposed, ashamed, small. But Victoria did not look at him with judgment. She looked at him with something far more unsettling, understanding. A week earlier, Daniel had left his laptop open in a conference room by accident. Victoria had walked in after hours to retrieve some documents. On the screen was not confidential data or careless mistakes. It was a budgeting spreadsheet titled Lily's Future. Beneath it were medical bills, daycare fees, rent calculations, and a note typed in bold at the top: "Do not give up." Victoria had not meant to pry, but she had seen enough. She had also noticed the dark circles under Daniel's eyes in meetings, the way his hands trembled slightly when he presented reports, the way he declined after-work gatherings without explanation. She had asked HR discreetly about him and learned of his wife's passing, his single parenthood, his consistent performance despite personal hardship. That night, after a board dinner where investors praised her leadership, Victoria had gone home to her silent penthouse apartment. She stood in her immaculate kitchen, surrounded by spotless marble and untouched appliances, and felt an ache she had long buried. Years ago, she had lost her own mother while building her career. She had chosen ambition over hospital visits, meetings over final moments. Success had come, but so had regret. and so she found Daniel's address in the employee directory. She told herself she was only going to drop off groceries anonymously. But when she reached his door and noticed the burnt-out hallway light, the scuffed paint, and the faint sound of a child coughing inside, something shifted. She knocked. When no one answered, she saw the spare key hidden under a loose floor mat, careless, desperate, human. She stepped inside and was greeted by the quiet evidence of a man drowning, without making a sound. Now standing in front of him, Victoria removed her gloves slowly. Daniel felt tears sting his eyes, but he swallowed them back. Pride had always been his armor. Victoria explained softly that she wasn't there as his CEO. She was there as someone who understood what it meant to carry too much alone. She told him that strength did not mean silence, that leadership was not only about profits and performance reviews, but about people. She admitted she had seen his spreadsheet. She apologized for invading his privacy, but said she could not ignore what she saw. Daniel's knees nearly gave out. For 2 years, he had convinced himself that asking for help was weakness, that surviving quietly was the only option. But here was the most powerful person in his professional world, kneeling beside a bucket of soapy water in his kitchen. In the weeks that followed, things began to change not through charity but through dignity. Victoria implemented a new company initiative for single parents, flexible hours, childcare stipends, remote work options. She never mentioned Daniel's name. She promoted him quietly, recognizing his talent that had been overshadowed by exhaustion. She arranged for a trusted cleaning service to visit his apartment weekly, under the company's wellness program. Daniel cried that night after Lily fell asleep in her freshly made bed. Not because someone cleaned his house, but because someone saw him, truly saw him. He began coming home earlier. He started cooking simple dinners again. He laughed more. Lily noticed first. She hugged him tighter, her small hands wrapping around his neck as if she sensed the weight lifting from his shoulders. Victoria, too, changed. She visited more employees. She listened. She replaced cold efficiency with compassionate leadership. The company thrived, not just financially, but humanly. Sometimes, the strongest people are the ones quietly washing dishes in